Welcome to the 2016 Annual Legislative Outlook Luncheon. I'm Lori White, President of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. And as always, it's great to see so many friends of the Chamber, business leaders, civic leaders, nonprofit leaders, many members of the General Assembly, many of our elected officials statewide. We thank you so very much for taking the time out of your schedules to come and be participatory and listen to today's events. So we expect to cover a lot of ground today, a lot of big issues in the news, certainly issues around infrastructure improvement, issues around Governor Raimondo's budget address last night. Also, a lot of talk about what we are doing as a state to accelerate our innovation economy and our innovation capacity. We have lots of questions and really some positive movement to report on workforce development issues and the continuing effort to drive down the state's unemployment rate. And lots of issues around the business climate, what we can do as cross-cutting issues to tackle unemployment insurance, to tackle regulatory reform, to tackle e-permitting, and the like. So these are some of the issues that we will talk about today as part of the Chamber's 2016 policy agenda. So while our conversation today will involve the leaders of the General Assembly, I'm really pleased and very proud to say that we have dozens and dozens of members of the General Assembly with us this afternoon to listen, to be embedded at your tables, if you will, to talk with each one of you about some of the issues that they're seeing up at the General Assembly, and likewise an opportunity for all of you to share some thoughts and ideas with them as well. So at this point, I would ask all of the members of the General Assembly who are here today to please stand up and recognize so that we can thank you for coming. Please stand up. So I know we have over 50 elected officials with us today from the General Assembly, and we are very, very delighted to welcome you. Also with us today, some statewide elected officials, also delighted to welcome our Lieutenant Governor Dan McKee, our Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea, our State Treasurer Seth Magaziner, and our Attorney General Peter Kilmartin. Please join me in thanking them as well for their leadership and their participation and their support of the Chamber's agenda over the years. I'd also like to thank our sponsors for making this afternoon's event possible. They include our presenting sponsor, Twin River Casino. Thank you very much, John Taylor. We'll be hearing from John in just a moment. Our Gold and Signature event sponsors, including Bank of America, the Beacon Mutual Insurance Company, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island, Cox Communications, CVS Health, the Rhode Island RX card, and Walmart. A full listing of our sponsors can be seen in your program, so please do take a look at our sponsors and thank them for continuing to help advance these issues and be part of our overall business environment. At this point, I'd now like to welcome the Chairman of the Board of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. Peter Andruszkiewicz is the President and CEO of Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Rhode Island, and he is a leader in every respect. He has been outspoken and a real driver on many of the issues that the Chamber is advocating for this year in 2016. He has had a major role in developing our legislative agenda, including developing positions on many issues, including our infrastructure investments, our roads and bridges, investment in innovation, and our capacity to improve the skills of the workforce. He's been a leader in this state in redesigning Medicaid and improving the overall health care delivery system. And most notably, he has played a strong role in bringing the private sector into the discussion with the Commerce Department to help create a more persuasive effort, a more diligent effort to go out to the marketplace to express the real B2B value proposition of doing business in Rhode Island. At this moment, please join me in welcoming the Chairman of the Board of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, Peter Andruszkiewicz.
Thank you so much, Lori, for that kind introduction. And I'd like to add my thanks to all of our members, elected officials, and all the business and civic leaders who are here to join us today in this important and ongoing conversation. I think we all share a renewed sense of optimism about economic development, job growth, and Rhode Island's competitiveness, and that these things are all improving. And we also share a sense of urgency because we still have a long way to go. And finally, we know that neither government or the private sector can do it on their own. And that's why I continue to call for a new kind of public-private partnership. I've been fortunate in my role as Chamber Chair to spend meaningful time with the Speaker and the Senate President. And so I know firsthand that they have the same sense of optimism and urgency as we do, and that they want our help. This luncheon is another excellent opportunity for the business community, our institutions of higher education, and public officials to come together on these important issues, finding common ground and complementing each other's actions. The good news is that our optimism seems to be well-founded because we're starting to see real results. The governor and the legislature have continued to move the state toward a more business-friendly tax climate. We've seen a historic agreement at the Joint Nursing Education Center, the recently announced Wexford deal, and the legislature approved last year a set of new economic tools that are getting us in the game in a different way than we have before, getting us in a game to play for companies like General Electric. As well, finally, as the work that Lori alluded to, that the Chamber is doing with Commerce to launch an exciting new business attraction strategy that will utilize the state's statewide brand and marketing campaign. All of these are examples of that the work that we're doing is beginning to take hold, and we're building momentum. And while none of this will be easy, I sense a continued and real sense of excitement among all the stakeholders and a willingness to do the hard work that's going to be required to get us the results we envision. My experience is that a lot of change can happen quickly when interests are aligned around common goals. So let's continue to build this new public-private partnership, shape it through dialogue, shared dreams, and ideas, and build the foundation that our state needs to better compete and to thrive. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's presenting sponsor, Twin River Casino. Twin River Casino is the state's largest gaming and entertainment venue, as well as one of its top visitor attractions. Gaming is the state's largest source of revenue, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue annually, much of it from Twin Rivers, which employs hundreds of Rhode Islanders. Leading the board of directors and representing the ownership group and overseeing management of Twin River is John Taylor, an industry veteran with deep executive experience. John is all about promises kept. While many new developments in this highly competitive space, he and his team are deeply immersed in new and innovative ways to diversify their portfolio of activities to protect the sizable revenue stream that goes to the state of Rhode Island. And as presenting sponsor, John's here today to tell us more. Please welcome John Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter, and good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to provide you with a brief update on Twin River Casino. With a good number of business leaders, legislative officials, and labor representatives here this afternoon, I wanted to speak exclusively about the legislation introduced recently at our request. Known as the Tiverton Casino Bill, the legislation provides the vehicle for a state and local referendum, the latest and probably most important piece of legislation we have ever introduced in our strategy to deal with increased competition in the Northeast. If approved, it will allow voters to weigh in on a simple but important question. Do you favor a casino in Tiverton? If the answer is yes, Newport Grand will close once a new casino is built, probably in mid-2018. As has been the case with other past gaming issues, the question must pass statewide as well as within the town. In speaking with Tiverton residents, we learned that they really wanted to understand the specifics of a potential casino in their community. For that reason, the legislation goes into great detail about the unique relationship between the state, Twin River, and hopefully the town of Tiverton. It captures commitments we believe are necessary with respect to road repairs, size and scope of the facility, and financial contributions. Importantly, it assures Tiverton that a minimum of $3 million annually from gaming revenue and another $1 million from various taxes and fees will be there for the town's fiscal planning purposes. We think that's reasonable given the highly uncertain gaming landscape in the region. If gaming revenue to the town should fall below the $3 million in any given year, we're asking our partner, the state, to make up the possible shortfall. We think that's reasonable given our acquisition of Newport Grand and the initial investment of $75 million we will make to develop and construct the casino and an adjoining hotel. Further, as we will discuss in a moment, the state can expect from a casino in Tiverton, when you consider the significant increase in revenue the state can expect from a casino in Tiverton, we believe that participation is justified. Another critical element of the program is that the town shares in table game revenues, a segment growing in popularity. To this end, both Twin River and the state will each reduce by 0.5 percentage point the revenue it garners from table games, effective when the casino opens in Tiverton. A safety net for Tiverton is warranted given tremendous uncertainty about what Massachusetts will do in awarding their final casino licenses. Our planning process led us to engage the Innovation Group, which calculated the likely impact of 4 casino scenarios, ranging from the possibility of 2 Southeast Massachusetts casinos, the Tribal Casino in Taunton, as well as the Brockton proposal, to just one of either of those locations, to none at all. Today, Newport Grand contributes approximately $27 million to the state from gaming. Newport Grand's survival and the state's revenue from it are clearly at risk, particularly with 2 casinos in southeastern Massachusetts. In that case, Newport Grand would likely go out of business. In all 4 of the innovation scenarios, however, a Tiverton casino not only survives, but is projected to contribute a minimum of $47 million annually to state coffers, to a possible maximum state share of $70 million if it's the only casino in the region to come online. Even in the most challenging Massachusetts environment, it is projected to earn more money, nearly double, for the state than Newport Grand presently does. Its convenient highway access, proximity to a larger pool of prospective customers, and full complement of gaming and entertainment amenities makes it a game changer and a competitive force in the marketplace. We feel strongly that going forward, the relationships we have with both of our host communities should be consistent. Therefore, this legislation also ensures that both communities are provided with the same economic protections in the face of growing Massachusetts competition. In summary, over the years, we've tried to plan for as many scenarios as possible as we've considered our strategies related to Massachusetts. This is important revenue to the state, and it's important to our continued viability as the producer of the state's 3rd largest source of revenue. And today, I'm hoping I can plan on your support. We're grateful for the cooperation we've received from Governor Raimondo, Speaker Mattiello, Senate President Paiva-Weed, this chamber, and the labor community. You've been partners with us in nearly every major development we've undertaken to transform Twin River into the economic engine that it is today, providing nearly 2,000 jobs and producing approximately $300 million annually in state revenue. We will most certainly need that continued collective support as we launch our education campaign to pass the ballot question in November and broaden our conversations to the voters of this state. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for outlining in very methodical and systematic fashion what's at stake in terms of this referendum. And as John knows, and as the board of the Chamber knows, the Chamber is very supportive of this referendum, and we look forward to partnering with all of you at Twin River and Newport Grand to continue this fine tradition. It's time for our panel discussion. Just a programming note, we will adjourn at 1:30, so we have 45 minutes to get through a series of questions. And in terms of format, I have a few that I will pose to the panel, and then we have three members of the Chamber who will join us on stage to pose a couple of questions of their own. So as we begin, I'd like to introduce our guests and certainly welcome them and thank them for participating today. And I believe we all know them very well. Speaker Mattiello, Leader DeSimone, Leader Brian Newberry, our Senate President, Teresa Paiva-Weed, Leader Ruggiero, and Leader Algier. So we're here today to talk about business issues, business climate issues, and what we can do to continue to accelerate the progress in Rhode Island. So as we begin, I would like to call your attention to some photos that I shot back in October to lead us into the first part of our discussion, which is about bridges and infrastructure and the needed repairs in terms of what we're going to do to improve our system of highways and get our bridges in a position where they are sturdy and ready for global commerce. And these are some images of the bridges under the 610 connector, which you hear so much about. So I wanted to see for myself a little bit about what the condition of those bridges were. And I would like to begin by asking Speaker Mattiello to tell us a little bit about this revised version of roadworks. You were non-committal about the first version, which surfaced last year at the end of the legislative session. What is it about this version in 2016 that you believe is a better product? And what can you say to the manufacturers and distributors that are members of the Chamber and the larger business community to help alleviate some of their concerns?
All right. Thank you, Laura. First of all, I want to thank the Chamber and everybody involved for putting this together. It gives us a great opportunity to communicate with the business community and have a discussion about issues that are important. And, quite frankly, this is an important issue. You have to start with the proposition that we have, objectively, the worst roads and bridges and overpasses in the country. That's unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. I think it's been that way since I was a young child. I've always heard we had bad roads. Everybody gets flats in the wintertime and potholes, and you just know that Rhode Island bridges are bad. But I never realized until very recently that they're the worst in the country, and that's something that you just can't. You can't have your infrastructure be in that condition and want to be successful economically. So, we start off with the position that we thank Governor Raimondo for tackling a very difficult issue. I mean, nobody wants to tackle these types of issues, but she had the fortitude to identify the problem and come up with a proposal. Now, last year, I heard from a lot of the skeptics, and I became skeptical myself, or at least I wanted to reserve my judgment. I put the brakes on the proposal, and it didn't pass as fast as some folks may have wanted it to last year. But I said, look, I'm concerned with the impact that this proposal could have on the economy, so what do? You get a professional assessment. We went out and we got a professional economic impact study from REMI, and it came back that it's going to create 6,000 jobs, increase the wealth of Rhode Islanders, reduce unemployment, and increase the gross product of Rhode Island. In essence, greatly improve our economy. So folks said it wasn't going to improve the economy. The experts say it is going to improve the economy, and I don't know to move forward in any other fashion except to listen to the experts. And I actually reached out and spoke to economists and so forth. So I believe I did my due diligence, and economically the plan works. But we have the benefit of more federal money, so you're going to change the plan going from last year to this year. And how has it changed? We went from almost $600 million of borrowing down to $300 million. That saves 65% interest over the course of the plan. And even the old plan was a good plan to move forward with, because the interest, as high as it was, is less than the deterioration on the bridges. So you could have moved forward with the last plan, but this one saves 65% on the interest, which makes it that much better. We went from 17 gantries to 14 gantries. We went from roughly $30 maximum for trucks to go through Rhode Island to $20 maximum. Each toll is going to be, each gantry will be roughly $3. Not exactly, but roughly $3. So all of the, and we put a referendum question in there, which, by the way, generally I don't like, but to deal with that loud minority voice of no, we wanted to just be clear as to the intent in the legislation, and that this is a plan to toll very large trucks and not passenger cars. So I think the plan is much better than it was. Only because of a change in circumstances. And we all came together. We looked at runs of numbers until I couldn't see anymore. And we made the plan better and more efficient. And I'm very proud to have worked with the governor and the Senate president and all of our colleagues in putting forth the plan that I'm actually pleased with. Now,
Madam President, you passed a bill in the Senate last year, and you are strongly supportive of this version as well.
I think the speakers articulated it well, that the Speaker, the Governor, and myself all started from the same place, that being 50th in the country and our roads and bridges infrastructure is not acceptable. Beginning there, we then, as the Speaker said, went through a lot of runs. And to the manufacturers that you mentioned, I think what I would say, without going over all the details of the plan again, I should thank the Chamber for having this event first, and thank our federal delegation for the additional federal money, which, as has been said, it allowed us to restructure, reduce the number of gantries, reduce the maximum toll, and reduce the amount of borrowing. But there's different types of economic investment that we can choose to make as a state. Some of it you see immediate results that is politically easier to deal with and as a business are easier to grasp. Those tend to be tax cuts, tax incentives. But there's other types of investments that have long-term benefits. And the two that I have continued to focus on have been investments in infrastructure and education. This investment in roadworks is an investment in the economy. It's an investment in public safety, because as your photographs show, right now the condition of our bridges is unsafe. And it's an investment in our future. And the one thing I guess I would ask those that have a concern is to stand with us, to stand together with us, because in the long term, it will make Rhode Island grow and be healthier and a safer, better place to live.
Now, if I may, Laura, I don't want to belabor this too much, but I think this is important. You said, what should we say to the manufacturers? Well, directly, I would say this. They toll trucks up the entire eastern seaboard in every state except Georgia, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. Georgia, interestingly enough, tolls cars but not trucks, and we don't want to do that in Rhode Island. Connecticut, I understand, is going to toll next year, so it's essentially going to be just Rhode Island that doesn't toll. So a truck going cross country is essentially paying tolls in every state except Rhode Island, which I'll indicate in a minute is unfair, but you have the investment in the truck, and these trucks are at least 250,000, probably more. You have the diesel fuel that they have to run. You have the truck driver. You have the taxes on the truck. All of the expense of that, it costs a lot of money to transport goods. And they're paying tolls in every state along the way, plus burning fuel at roughly $1 a mile. So when they come to Rhode Island, you're dealing with normal natural economic forces, but if they have to pay $6, $9, $12, even $20 on a tractor-trailer truck, there is no way that adds to the cost of the goods in that truck, considering the vast volume of goods in that truck. But let's assume it does, because some people are going to say that the sky's going to fall and you're going to double the cost of all your goods, which don't believe. It's ridiculous. They carry so many items and so much weight that it's not going to add cost. But let's assume it does for a second. That means that as you're buying goods in Rhode Island, you're contributing to the infrastructure of every state that truck has come through to come to Rhode Island. And guess what? They're not contributing to our infrastructure. So just having that as the way we do business puts Rhode Island at a competitive disadvantage with other states. It's unfair to Rhode Islanders. We need to bring in that 60% of outside money. It's not going to add to the cost of goods sold, but if it does, let's put ourselves at a competitive advantage with the other states that are also adding to the cost of goods sold that you folks are paying for. So overall, when you look at the plan, and I've thought about this more than any of you care to do, but when you look at the plan and you study it and you look at the expert evidence and all of the real consequences of it, not the make-believe, it's a good plan moving forward. And the two pillars, real solid pillars of our economy, our education and infrastructure, and if we really want to be competitive, we have to address this. In Rhode Island, we have too loud a minority voice of no that wants to get nothing done. And that's not the minority party. The minority voice of no that wants to cripple this state. And we have to move away from that. And as a business community, you have to help us move the state forward and reject that voice. That voice will cripple the state of Rhode Island, and we want to move the state, all of us collectively, all of Rhode Islanders collectively want to move this state forward. We are the best, we're going to be the best, and we're going to have good infrastructure. Thank you.
So I will point out that the hearings are this week before the House and Senate committees, and the Chamber will be there as a strong and vocal supporter of this bill. And if anybody wants to read about this issue in context, I would direct you to a magazine called Area Development. And what they do, and you can check it out on the website as well, but they list every year the critical site selection factors that corporate America, site selection officials, industry, relocation executives, they rank on a continuum of 10 points. What are the top factors that they look for in states? And at the end of 2015, fourth quarter 2015, their rankings came out and they said accessibility and quality infrastructure was the #1 issue because quality roads and bridges keeps America moving. So to be able to transport and to have access to airports and roads and rail facilities, #1. So I think investing in this is a way to continue to promote Rhode Island's economic development strengths. So at this point, let's turn to the governor's budget last night. Any initial thoughts, Mr. Speaker?
Well, very briefly, because I already took a lot of time. I like the themes in the budget: education, concentration on jobs, the economy, improving our economic climate. Generally, I think the governor's right on target. We've, as a General Assembly, the House and the Senate, been focused on the economy. The governor is focused on the economy, so that just is great for our future. And we'll assess the details of the budget, and our committees will do their due diligence. And we have a great vetting process, and we'll go through it. But the themes of the budget, I'm very much in agreement with and pleased with.
Madam President, last week I participated in a roundtable discussion with you on the green economy and your strategies for putting forth a comprehensive set of recommendations to develop jobs in this sector. Tell us a little bit about those areas that you think would be most relevant to this audience today around developing green sector jobs, and also how that might dovetail with the Brookings recommendations about being more responsive to the creation of advanced industry jobs.
Thank you, Lori. Certainly what we found in identifying the green industry as an area for growth is that it's the one sector that last year outpaced almost every other sector in job growth. The job growth rate in the green sector was 6.6%. Then, as you look globally, you see major corporations such as General Motors and Apple are investing in green. So in a way, it's government following the lead of business on this particular issue that has now been defined at a national level and by the corporate world as an opportunity for economic development. With that in mind, we take a step back and look at Rhode Island and attempted to come up with a plan that could potentially, if all the goals of that report were accepted, make Rhode Island identifiable on a national level as a green state, which attracts businesses and goes forward. Similarly, the key components of recommendation, and for those of you that like to read the report, it's a little lengthy. It can be found on the website as well. But the key elements are investing in STEAM in all areas of education, from elementary through higher education. In particular, in the area of higher education, looking to develop certificate as well as four-year degree programs in areas where, in fact, there are opportunities for jobs that currently are not being filled because we just don't have the skilled individuals graduating from our institutions of higher learning. In addition, we look to expand the market for renewables, and we believe what that provides is an opportunity for some of the newer renewables to become involved, such as biodiesel, and it provides an opportunity for companies looking to invest here, if they know we have long-term commitment to the renewables, that they will invest here. And finally, taking advantage of programs that the governor initiated and the General Assembly adopted as part of the tools of the toolbox in our Grow Rhode Island program. What it does is the same thing that Brookings has done and that's being done nationally. Is it looks at what industries are growing, matches it with the need for higher education programs, and moves forwards. The Chamber, the banking industry, has played a real role in the first slot of DLT money. We're hoping that in the next presentation of Department of Labor training monies, that they'll identify the green economy as one area where industry can partner with our institutions of higher education and our nonprofit community to, in fact, prepare programs to train people to acquire the jobs of the future.